We're back with the Crushing Iron podcast.
We're back. It's June 15th for all you Geminis. The year is 2021. This is the Crushing Iron podcast. Here, episode 486.
Yeah. Was that some Gemini love there?
That was some Gemini love. Geminis are, I think, two-headed or two-love or two-spirited or split personalities or something like that. They're supposed to be loved or hated, but that's us Geminis.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Loved or hated, huh?
I think something like that. I don't know. I'm not a horoscope kind of guy.
Maybe you should be.
Yeah, maybe I should brush on up on things. But
yeah, because you got one coming up, maybe.
Yeah, I turned 41 in 36 hours-ish.
36, wow.
Something like that. Yeah, I feel 36 instead of 41. And we hope you feel awesome. It is a Tuesday again here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It is hot. Things are heating up right on the race course. Things are going to heat up here in a little bit on the podcast. But as always, we appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we appreciate that. We have 485 podcasts in the archive. Mike and I have been doing these for going on 5 years now. Mike does a really awesome job of outlining each of our podcasts on the topics that we go through. You can pick and choose on what podcasts seem relevant to your life or relevant to training. You can listen to them in order. You can go in reverse order, which I always recommend because it'll help you really understand and realize how long it takes to be even like mediocre at something, which is how long it's taken us to become mediocre in this podcast business, even after 486. But we talk about it a lot. We talk about triathlon. We talk about life. We talk about everything in between. We do race recaps. We do race previews. We have on the rare guest. But for the most part, Mike and I just sit back, relax as best friends, coaches, athletes, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. Sometimes we even hop into our closed Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that conversation, a lot of awesome people in there. Answer one simple question, we'll let you in. Sometimes we'll use the pulse of the community, help drive the conversation of the podcast. We'll use our athletes and what they're going through. Because listen, like we're not professionals, we're not experts. We're just like you. We're going through this, been going through it for a long time, coaching for 15 years. Mike's been participating and coaching for going on 8 years now. So we have a lot of experience. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've had a lot of successes.
It's 10 years.
We've been doing 10 years.
Somebody brought that up the other day. Why does he keep saying 8? It's been 8 for like 2 years.
I mean, listen, when I got a spiel, I got to stick with the spiel because once you know me varieties for the week, I'm going to be saying that for the next 10 until we retire after podcast 1000.
That's fine. I'd rather be younger.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying not to age you. If I keep doing that, then people are going to start adding things up and age you.
That's good.
Mike's been doing this for 48 years. He's been this for a very long time. But no, that's it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads, which people seem to enjoy, and we enjoy it as well. We have one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Happy, healthy, and fast.
You said you had to follow up. We got a lot of feedback last week as I went off on haircuts, and I will say that there was I got quite a few. You know me, I don't LOL. Really ever.
No.
Like very rarely.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not a laugh out loud kind of guy. No.
You're the ha guy.
I am a ha guy. I'm a ha guy. I'm like ha. Or if I give like a ha ha, it's like I can continue on this conversation. I'm in. Yeah. But if I give like a ha, I'm like that was funny. Let's carry on.
The crying
like,
tears emoji.
Yeah, definitely.
You're good at that too.
Definitely not that guy.
Occasionally.
But we had a couple of people text and email us or message say they really enjoyed the breath of 3 fairies comment that I made last week, and then people were wondering what the, because listen, it's the worst. Like when you have hair covering your face, it's not pleasant. But this morning or before we went live, you said you had a follow up to the haircut.
Well, it's just a hair story. I got after we ran on Sunday, I went out and did a little riding at the battlefield in the afternoon.
Sunday?
Yeah. I know. Well, you know how it goes, man. You kind of watch people work all weekend.
Dude, you were playing me. You were like, dude, you're on fire. Because I was on fire. On Sunday, we got done with the run. We got done with breakfast. I came to the hub, was cleaning up, getting ready for our next camp. You were like, man, you're good. You're good to go. You're ready to go. You're like, all right, Maddie, let's go take a nap. And then you went and grabbed the bike and headed out for a ride. You're trying to pull one over on me.
Laying low. But, yeah, it was a little hot that day. But I've had this because it's a loop situation, so I load up a cooler in my trunk with water bottles and then nutrition, and it's been a great system, nice and cold and everything like that. So I was trying to simulate, because it's every 9 miles or so every 2 laps I would simulate an aid station. Kind of, you pull in and I was dumping water on my head and then just taking off again. And first of all, that really matters. It's like unbelievable difference. Like when you get cold like that and you get out and the wind blows, it just feels so much better. But anyway, I happened to grab a nutrition bottle for the pour over the head, and it was based.
Oof. Took a salty shower.
But I gotta say, it's quite the hair product. Because when I got done, I was like, oh, I could tell like in my eyes and stuff like that. I was like, oh man, what am I doing? And then I got done. I got in the car later. That
you kind of gelled it, kind of
was a little, kind of like a little crispy gel.
Yeah,
but it had a pretty good style. I took a picture. I might put that up someday.
Do you still gel your hair?
Very rarely.
Yeah, that's something I think. You know me, I don't ever gel my hair ever, out of respect. Out of respect, I leave when Frankie cuts my hair. She likes to put a little bit of product in it, and I don't put because I walk in there obviously with my hat on, and she's like, "Are you gonna put your hat back on?" I'm like, "No, do it up."
Oh yeah, you gotta walk.
Yeah, but when I walked out of your place, as soon as I got to the register, hat on. I pulled it straight down and even did the bill tuck and pressed it down to make sure. I was like, I see what you did right here, and I don't like it. I'm gonna walk out of here in shame. That's why I'm wearing my hat. So it's kind of like just a message.
Yeah, but it was cheap though, right?
It wasn't the $20 that you pay.
How do I get $20?
Well, they probably overcharged me because they're like, we're never going to see him again, so let's get a couple extra bucks out of him.
Yeah.
But we'll move on with the cast. We're coming to you usually a day. We usually come to you on Mondays and Thursdays, but we came to you a day late. We need a little bit of time to recharge our batteries, even though apparently we were both ready to rock Sunday afternoon because Mike was riding and I was getting stuff done here at the hub. But we had a tech camp here in Chattanooga. We had 20 athletes come in town from all over. People flew in, people drove in. It was the first camp, large camp we've had here at our training center here in Chattanooga. And it was awesome. It was more of a tech-driven podcast, a tech-driven camp. A lot of instruction, a lot of education, a lot of talking, a lot of seminars. And I loved it. It kind of never ceases to amaze me, though, even as long as you and I have both been in this sport, that I always tend to forget how much there is going on within the sport of triathlon, how much there is to talk about, how much there is to think about, how much there is to, either you can analyze or not analyze, and just how much information is out there, which in my opinion, that's why this sport can be so complicated and so stressful, is because with topics that have so much information, it opens the door to so much misinformation and so many people suggesting or commenting or, wanting to go down a certain way. There's a lot of conflicting ideas and terminology and ways to address things. And it was a very good reminder of just how much there is to go in. And you can say it in 15 different ways. And it might sound different one year because I'm obviously doing this inching closer to 500 podcasts. We have definitely double, triple, quadrupled up on topics on podcasts because it's all relevant. It's still things that we're still going through. We're still thinking about. I mean, even, myself, as I mentioned, kind of in the athlete weekly email that we put out, it was even being in the sport for as long as I have been, I'm still trying to figure some stuff out, and still learning and still adapting. And, there's always, new science that comes out, and it doesn't mean you reinvent the wheel, but there's just always so much. And that's why I know you and I both love working with athletes at both ends of the spectrum, from, beginners to seasoned athletes that have been doing this for even longer than you and I have. It's just a good reminder. There's so much going on, and that's why, keeping things as simple and as straightforward as we possibly can. And I don't consider it dumbing it down, because I think that just makes the listener or your athlete sound like they can't retain good information. But a lot of what we do and what you should be doing is fairly simple. But with this day and age and the technology that you have the opportunity to get your hands on, and especially in things like Training Peaks, it's just because there are numbers that are there don't mean that they're relevant to you, or don't mean that you just because something is available doesn't mean it's necessary. And I think that's something that we kind of have to rewind ourselves on, is not everything is necessary, and it can oftentimes just lead to more confusion. And if there's more confusion, it usually means that there's less progress.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've been on this simplicity kick. I'm always
since
on
you were
that.
born.
Yeah, exactly. So it's and right when you're talking about that, I always like to make a drum analogy. But if you're going to start playing drums, and a lot of people get into triathlon and they're excited, and just a lot of people get into drumming and they're excited. I remember back when it was when you start drumming, you really need a rubber pad to play on to work on your sticking, but that gets boring, right? So really what you need is a snare, a kick drum, a rack tom, and a floor tom, and that's it, maybe a cymbal. But there's so many shiny drum kits out there, and people try to get into that and start playing, the Neil Peart kit.
Sure.
I'm talking about the guy from Rush, right? So he he's got about 80 drums and gongs and, you know, all kinds of stuff. But my point is like, I think a lot of people, you know, and it's tempting to get ahead of the game, right? You start like worrying about these things that really don't matter, you know, like, I don't know, just like, I mean, like if you're just barely starting to ride a bike or whatever, you know, you don't need to buy the best components in the world, or, you know what I mean? This is like, there's an end. Sure, you can always find the best and the best and the best, but you got to put in the work, and that's where it comes down for me. And a lot of times it's just a matter of really kind of pulling things back to your lifestyle. You know, like I'm a totally different person than I was yesterday, because after that run and ride, I was just kind of wiped yesterday after the camp. And I think it's about, you know, living right and, you know, just being able to do the stuff and not going overboard, you know, and building the correct way, which is basically what we, you know, coach, is not overdoing it and burying yourself in a hole and starting to hate the thing and hate the sport. And I think a lot of us have a tendency to be, you know, I feel pretty good today, and just push too far when you need to pull back or whatever, and then get ready for tomorrow. We've talked about it a million times, but for me, that is the simplicity of it, is just kind of stay in the pocket and do the work and be patient with it, you know, instead of getting like too wrapped up in, you know, all these deep scientific studies and things of that nature, you know.
Well, and this is like we discussed this. There was a question that we had during, I think it was about trainings, the talk we did on training zones, or maybe it's the open floor Q&A we had with the coaches. But it is like there's so much offered in this sport in terms of things that you can buy, which is like, if you're an American, that's like your number one hobby, is to just buy things. Like, oh, I think I want that, I'm going to get it right now. You know, I always say, hey, if you really want it, need it, put it in your cart and let it sit for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, you really want it, then you can get it.
Yep.
But for athletes, it is, oh, I want that, I'm going to get it right now. I want things that, you know, power meters, aero bars, race wheels, you know, a new training platform or Zwift or train, like all these things that make you feel you're the part of the conversation because everybody else uses them, you know, or you want to go up, you want a better aero helmet, you want better race wheels, you want a better setup, you want, you know, new running shoes, you want new this, like it's buy, because that's easy. We can just simply click it, because it's also the easiest thing to do for yourself as a triathlete is to what? Click the register button. Yeah. Everything. That's the easiest thing.
Got faster.
The easiest thing you're going to do is, and listen, like people admit this almost on a weekly basis, as like to me as a coach. Like I even had someone yesterday. It was like, hey man, I saw that I signed up to our team race for 2022 is going to be, one of them is going to be Ironman St. George. I talked with the wife about it. I signed up. You know what the fact of the matter is? I'm probably not going to be able to do it. It's in the busiest, he's a CPA. It's like the busiest time of the year. And he always has like a really rough time for those students. He was like, and you know what, the chances are I'm probably not going to do it, but you know what? Here's to hope, you know, here's to hopefully getting it. Optimism. Like, but those are things that athletes do when, like, the fact of the matter is that, and I put this in again, I think it sounds harsh and I don't mean for it to come across that way, but it is just the truth. And because we talked about discipline and consistency and getting the work in, it was like, until you're able to like, take all the wants and the needs and the impulse buying and the things that make you feel like a triathlete, like push that all out of the side and until you can find a way to be consistent. Because until you can find a way to be consistent and to provide your own structure, or have a coach provide structure for you and part of a process that you're doing on a day in and day out, you're not training, you're exercising, because what you're doing is sporadic. And if you, it's like, let me give you the analogy. It's like, you've got a guy who works on houses, I don't know, once every year. You know, once a year, I'm working on it. But he goes out, when he's going to do it, he's going to buy all the best equipment. That's, you know, the most complicated and most intense. Like, this is like next level. You need to be an expert to use his equipment. When it comes time for him to build his house, he's not going to know what to do. He's going to have to make some calls to customer service. He's going to have to read the instructions over again. He's probably going to mess things up. It's going to take him forever versus the handyman or the contractor that's like, you know, I just need like the tools to get by because I'm gonna be doing this every single day. Like I'm gonna do it week to week. I put my money on the guy who has the worst tools, but the guy who does it frequently, the guy who participates in his craft. And that's the thing is like that I think people just misunderstand about the sport is you have to be willing and able and have the time management and be involved in being a part of your craft, which is triathlon. Yes, it's your hobby, but if you truly want to get better of something, you have to do it. you have to participate in it frequently, not infrequently, frequently. And I'm still always like a surprise as a coach, like to hear athletes or watch athletes get frustrated or, fail to meet their expectations. And then you look back and you're like, what did you expect? Like we haven't done the work. Like you have to commit to the work before you can add what I consider like are the bells and whistles of triathlon, which are the higher priced gadgets and the other gear and things like that. Like, work on your nutrition. Like, we brought the topic, we did talk about race fueling, and you see people like, you know what, that looks good. I think I'm going to put a new $400 Aero helmet in my cart, and that's going to solve things. That's going to be better. And then you're like, hey, how many calories are in each scoop you put in your bottle for when you run or ride? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Yeah. Like, it's like not knowing what you put in your car, but so many athletes just like randomize their fueling and their nutrition. And that is like it is the number one thing you should focus on after you've gotten like your training in, because it's going to complement everything that you do. It's going to allow you to use the engine and the car and the racehorse that you've built to its best of its ability. But so many athletes just kind of like open up their pantry and they're like, all right, let me just take 2 bottles of G2 and a water. And then, how about some kombucha today? I think that's probably going to make things work. And I'll grab an Uncrustable. And that's probably going to get me through today. It's in the details that most people put their effort into are the details they shouldn't. Mm. It's the simplistic details like effort in understanding yourself or making smart decisions or understand, like you said, like I feel really good today. I think I'm going to smack. Wait a minute. Okay, I feel good today. I want to feel good again tomorrow. So what should I do instead of getting carried away with what numbers I'm going to see, or am I going to be able to beat the thing or beat the workout that I had the other day? Like we talked about this. I didn't mean to segue, but we're about to segue into, we talked earlier before we went live, is like, this is one of my favorite months every 4 years because you've got the Olympic swimming trials. And if you're not watching it, you should. It's on NBC. I think it's starting at like 8 o'clock Eastern every night. But it's also on NBC Sports, like the prelims. And then we got the Tour de France starting in a week. But in a lot of these events, this is the fastest meet in the world because Americans are it's not my opinion, it's a fact, are just that much better than the rest of the world in swimming for a lot of reasons. But a lot of these events, these guys and girls are going to miss out on an Olympic team and probably could medal at the Olympics. It is the fastest meet in the world that you're going to see, top to bottom. And you think about like paying attention to details, focusing on a process. These guys and these men and women train hundreds of thousands of yards to compete for sometimes seconds, sometimes minutes. They don't go for PRs in their training. They do it all to show up and hope to take off a couple tenths or a millisecond to either win their heat and move on, or just to set an American record, or because once you get to that end of the spectrum, it's about taking tenths or hundredths of a seconds off to get your PR. But they still do all this work. They show up to the pool. They're not wearing their heart rate straps. They're not wearing these big chunky garments. They got a clock on the wall. They do the work, and then they see what happens at the end. They don't get, and that's why swimming is such a beautiful sport, in my opinion, is because it's just so raw and bare. There aren't no gadgets like, they even banned like the fastest swimsuits that you could buy like 5 or 6 years ago. Like they don't put this on. You got to wear like, regulated swimsuits. You got goggles on a cap. That's it. There's no swimming power meter. There's no this. It's like a stopwatch for your coach or the clock on the wall and hard work. And you see the best athletes in the world trained by that. But then you move on to like, triathlon universe, and it's like, oh, I need the pace clock on my goggles, I need my Garmin, I need my heart rate strap, I need my fins, I need my I'm like, wait a minute, like whatever happened to just good sweat equity into the work that you do to get you to where you want to be? Because that's all it takes. It's hard work and discipline and showing up and getting on deck every single day, and that's how you get faster.
Yeah, before you segued, but I get this will still work.
We can re-segue.
Well, I want to stay in that swimming vein because that was cool to watch some of that. But you know me, I've had the same bike for like 7 years, and I kept saying, like, whenever I'm contemplating a decision, I try to turn inward, and then I really try to talk myself out of it a lot of times. And I did that for 7 years, and finally, one day you kept going, dude, you need a new bike or whatever, like all the time. But
to be fair, you did.
I know, but my point was always like I wasn't riding that one enough to justify it. So I would think about it in that way, and then finally one day we, came to the conclusion, yeah, we got it. And I have it, and it is nice, and I do think it's probably faster, and it's, I went from aluminum to carbon, and it's definitely a different ride, and I think it is going to make a difference. But the reality is still I have to put in the work.
You have to ride that bike.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's and that ties into what you're saying is like they'll get in the pool and they'll just swim, 10,000 meters and whatever, and who knows what they're doing all day and just swimming like crazy, and they're going for, split seconds. And we're if we swam anywhere near that, we'd be talking about, 25 minutes off our Ironman time or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's so simple, but you got to figure out how to do the work. You got to figure out how to have the energy to do the work, and you got to figure out, your why and what what's driving you and things like that. And for me, like, honestly, this is a weird thing, but like, I've been really kind of sort of getting back in there. And what I've thought lately is that I need to work on my spirituality, dude. Like, I'm just trying to ground myself.
Are we about to go religious?
No, we're not going to do it, but I'm just throwing it out there because for me, it's about balance and grounding, and because there's so many things going on, and it's really about simplifying my mind, whether it be through meditation or calming or different things, reading, not just, going to bed with a wound up brain, like, to me, I think that's what directly impacts my performance is if I'm just disheveled, if I don't sleep well and I got things on my mind and everything like that. We all have a million things going on in our mind, but we have to tame it and bring it back down so that you're calm, and you're not always like worked up, because I think that affects my workouts. That's all I'm saying.
At all. It definitely affects, your workouts. Stress, that's proven. Stress affects your workouts, and athletes' inability to be present in their workouts affects that workout. Like, if you're like, you and I both see this like all the time, is like an athlete does their workout and they'll say like, I was totally distracted during this workout. I had something else in my mind. I got through. It wasn't my best effort because I was distracted. That's how it is. Like, but distraction is also like so many athletes' biggest weakness is their ability to stay focused, right on, oh, well, I think I'll just do this, or I'm going to sign up for this. Or, talking about like, we see this as athletes get really, really, really close to race day. Mm-hmm. Is about a week out, 10 days out, you get like the text like, hey coach, this 5K popped up like a couple days out. It's probably not the best idea, but I say we rip it. And you're like, stop being stupid. Like, no, just hold it for another week and let's do this. Like, but people, like, especially triathletes, and I think, well, because we're all human, we're all people, like, we live in like an age of distraction where everything is beeping or vibrating or dinging, like your way to, oh, do this. Oh, here's an alert here. Oh, an email here, a text message here, a Facebook like here, or an Instagram, story here. It's like boom, boom. Everything is there to distract you from what you're supposed to be doing at that very second. And for those of you that are training, it's like everything, because doing the work is, let's be honest about it, it's boring and monotonous for a lot of it. It's just work after work after work. But you look at the best athletes in the world, their greatest strength, and you might argue that it's in their genes and their DNA. And like, you know what it is? It's their ability to stay focused for long periods of time, mm-hmm. and not have these periods of burnout or periods of unmotivated, lapses where they miss training. It's to stay focused in a process and work hard for long periods of time. Like, you take people that went through an Olympic cycle and then had the Olympics canceled, then they just have to tack on another 20%, right, to go into year 5 of putting Olympics. Like, you think how much extra like time they'd have put in versus what they had like originally wrapped their brain around to. But I thought was fascinating was that how many athletes they interviewed after this, like a lot of them said, this is the best like 7 months training I've ever had in my entire life. Like, they said, like, this, I'm feeling really, really good. I'm feeling really, really fit. I'm ready to see what I got. The split that I ran, today or swam was like, felt pretty controlled. So I'm excited to see what happens. Like, that's why I love watching Lily King, because she's like, she's not brash. She's just like confident, which I love, because she's basically undefeated in the breaststroke, and she should be. But it's just like how long of a period of time like that. And that's, again, like, if you could take, obviously I'm partial to swimming because I grew up doing it and I love it. And I think it's such a pure, amazing sport of like insane athleticism and power and endurance. But you look at them and you think, I think in a good way, they don't have these things to be distracted on. Like there's no power meters, there's no air helmets, there's no, carbon plated shoes, there's no, training peaks, there's no data this and forums, and they probably don't have like, a Tokyo Olympic Trials Facebook group page that they're all like circling in and like, wow, I wonder what the water temps community, I wonder how shallow it is. Did you hear they're going to put red lane lines in for this one? I think that's really going to mess up, my focus. They don't have that shit. Okay. They just focus on themselves. And if you when you watch them race, right, and you think about like comparison and what people do in races, like they get in a lane and they swim with their head forward. They don't worry about anybody else. Like towards the end, they may like take a sneak peek over to see if like where they are in the race, but especially in the outside lanes, it is north and south, baby. It is what I can do right now within these minutes or seconds. And I'm just going to give the best that I can and see where I end up against the rest of the field. But athletes, it's like Strava, comparison, expectation, failure, success. Like going back to, you said about not being stressed and like wrapped up in these like distractions. It's like the best athletes that I know of that we coach, that I know of and I'm friends with and I don't coach, they don't give a shit about all the extra, smoke and mirrors and the bells and whistles. It's like, if I'm going to get better, it's because I'm working to get better. It's not because I'm purchasing to become better, or that I'm getting distracted, or I'm making, impulse decisions on races, or, because let's be honest, like a lot of people do that when they get so close to the big day that they either self-sabotage by doing something stupid because they're letting the pressure get to them, or they're even more nervous about like, am I going to reach, like what happens if I do reach my goal, then where's my why going to go to? Or what, if I achieve what I never thought I could achieve, then what's next for me? Because a lot of people are wrapped up in their why and like, then what's left? What's going to drive you once you get to your destination? Are you going to have what it takes to get back in the car and find a new one? And I think a lot of people are genuinely fearful of that.
Yeah. That's retirement.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I love what you say about I love when we talk about swimming and how much time they put in, and like they're just not thinking about anything besides what they're doing, and they're focused and they're going forward. To me, because a big go by feel and understand your body person, that to me is the ultimate for that, because like you're saying, they're just swimming. And like that guy that did the 400, I don't know if we figured out his name or not, but they had a time set where you had to hit it in order to qualify for Tokyo. And I don't think he had hit it all year in training or what did like he hadn't his personal bet, but he went out there that day and actually got it, and it's like, if you think about that, and I had over the weekend, one of my session was, training with a purpose and race confidence, and training with a purpose is where it comes back to. It's like, they're working so hard in the pool, and how can you not like understand your body on a deep level when you swim that much without power meters and all that other business? And to me, that's like one of the most important things, is just to be able to train with that purpose of, one of the things I did is I showed a slide of one of my 2-hour rides, and I think my average speed was like 13.9 miles an hour. And I was so proud of it, because that's definitely not a Strava worthy thing or anything. But for me, the purpose was recovery, and I'm really bad at holding back on bike rides a lot. So, I did a lot of meandering, and I was just chilling out there. So, and then, when you're working those hard rides, you work them, but it doesn't, I was just really trying to impress the fact that, you can't focus on, your overall or your average power or your average speed and things like that, because within that workout, you should be doing things that are preparing you for a race and getting you better and helping you understand how you're going to tackle a race better and how it's going to feel when you get in there. Because if you're always riding sort of like, just to kind of see what you can do on a 30-mile ride and hammer it down, and man, always looking at, I got it up there, got the speed going. That's got nothing to do with anything you're doing if you're doing a full Ironman or even a half, really. I mean, it's got something to do with it. But you know what I'm saying? It's like work, to get your heart rate up and then recover it. And, like little things like that, most of us don't really think about a lot, because we're always thinking about the, setting the PR in training or whatever it is, and thinking that that's going to translate into a race, but it has really very little to do with it.
Sales, marketing, anybody who tries to like get you sold on a quick fix or a hack or, forget, training all year, for this or, for years, try this 12-week, 10-week, 6-week, 2-week program to get you faster. You know what those people are selling you or what they're preying on? Your highest level of distraction and your inability to stay focused. Your desire for the next shinier and brighter thing when what you really have is just sitting in your effing toolbox right now, which is hard work, dedication, and commitment. But then you see them like, oh no, that's going to make me feel special. That's what I'm going to do. That's going to get me over the edge. And then you see the same thing happen every other month for eternity because you have an inability to stay focused on the process in front of you. You will never, you yo-yo back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's insanely frustrating for the athlete because they think they're getting, listen, there is no magic pill. There is no secret sauce, right? There is 80 to 85, even 90% of endurance sports training. This goes for every level from professionals down to age groupers. It's effing boring. It is pretty simplistic. There is nothing shinier. But what society tries to do and what I think, triathlon and marketing tries to do is they try to make things look and seem like, oh, well, if you do this, we can do it in less time because everyone hears less time and they think, oh, well, that makes it better. Or, that'll make things, go quicker. Or maybe I can, everyone think there's like this cheat code to life or to business or to training. There isn't. Like there is no cheat code. There is no hack. There is no, special way to do it. It's just freaking hard work, consistency, and then staying your course and not deviating, staying your course. When you do it and if you really want to figure out if you're going to be, if you're going to reach the level or performance you want to reach, then you have to stick with it. Not for weeks, and I hate to break it to you, not for months, I hate to break it to you again, and not even for a year. Like, think how short a year is. Like, to be frank, this year has flown by, and we're more than halfway through it. And I think, like, that doesn't seem, but she's like, oh, it's going to take 6 months. Like, I don't have that kind of time. I need to get this done right now. And you're like, but do you want it done right now, or do you want to do it right? Do you want to do it to the best of your ability? Do you want to do it like, and I think that's just like, yeah, if you're a bucket lister, totally fine. I get it. You just want to check things off the box and move on to the next thing. That's fine. But if you really want to get better at things, you have to consistently do them over and over and over again and do it correctly, because that's how you're going to end up being the best. That's how you're going to end up being, like, you don't see, Olympic level swimmers or even just the best triathletes or just like even high level swimmers. Like, they don't cut corners. They don't think, okay, I wonder how little I can do. They're like, no, tell me whatever it takes to get to where I want to go, and I'm going to be willing to do it. They don't ask you, like, that's not in their vocabulary. What's the least I can do to get to the Olympics? Like, can I buy anything to help things go faster or to make things easier? I know you keep telling me 6 days in the pool or 7 days of pool is what I need, but you think we could do something special and do like 3 days a week and just, swim a little bit harder this week? You think that'll get me? And the coach would be like, no, you can't. And you obviously don't have what it takes to reach a level, because you're already looking for a shortcut. You're already looking for a way out of doing the work. But what we've come to love is, this is just humans in general, what we really want, we just want to feel special. We want to feel like we're a part of a newer, greater thing that isn't necessarily newer and greater for us. It's just, letting us feel special by giving into our own distractions. It takes, I think, years to even, if you're in the sport, to just kind of realize that, like, the things you purchase aren't going to make you faster. You're going to make you faster by the work that you do and staying focused, and that it's not going to take you weeks and months. It's probably going to take you years, to develop your craft to get to where you really, really, really want to be, because your body doesn't care about your timeline. Your goals don't. It's like the work that you can do. But as soon as you hit that register button and you click it and you're like, oh shit, now I got to put the work in to do this. Cause that, like, it's almost like a buzzkill until you hit like race day. It's like you got your peak, which is registration. Then you have your valley, which is training. Then you peak again, like on race day. Everything in the middle is like way, way, way below that in terms of like, getting like a huge endorphin rush or a huge, like, feel good. Everything in the middle is kind of like, oh God, like, now I got to do all this work. If I want to, like, book in these two great things, I got to do all this like really boring hard work. And that doesn't sound very fun to me.
Yeah. And I feel like you're in a good place with that, the training part of it. And it is a thing, right? Where it's like, I was talking with someone about how, when you sign up for a race like that, when you click the button, what you automatically see is those, what I'm capable of numbers. And then as training becomes the hard part. As training starts going and you can't find that consistency, and then you're in and out and whatever, and you're trying, you're not hitting, where you think you could. Then all of a sudden, if you have mid-season doubt about those, when you click the button numbers, then it becomes a really big problem, because then, especially for people like that have done multiple races, multiple fulls, and then you start thinking about, Jesus, man, the pain of that marathon. What am I doing? Why did I do this?
Why did I do this?
Because now all of a sudden, if you can't get to where you wanted to get in your ideal world, then it becomes like, oh man, a grind. So I think it'd be interesting to talk about this idea of like, okay, say you get off to a bad start in say it's 20 weeks of training or whatever. And maybe I'm a good example of it, like a half-assed start, Maybe I'm bringing this all around to me on the couch again. But you know what I'm saying? Like what, you kind of go in and out of it. You got to be able to shift your brain around the idea. It's like, you're in, and you might as well do the best you can with it, because you never know what's going to happen on race day. Especially when we're 14, 15 weeks away from my race, it's just like you're saying, like, it's not too late. Just start spinning the corner. And I've seen actually people, we had a guy in the club, he kind of turned it up to do Tulsa like about 8 weeks out. And he's like, all right, man, I'm in. And he didn't have, he had a great race for the training he put in, I thought. Turned out well. So, but I think when you start losing, the confidence in the idea that you're going to get that number that you really we're shooting for, that's when it gets hard, because then you got to grind, and you're sort of like, oh man, I got to kind of just do this because whatever,
Because people, listen, a lot of us live in a fantasy land. Like you sign up for a race and you're like, oh dude, I definitely got a sub 11 in me. 10 weeks go by, like, yeah, I'll probably start in a little bit. Another 2 weeks go by, and you're like, yeah, I got time. Then 10 minutes go by, and then you end up, getting in a groove in your race. And you're like, I can't figure it out. I'm super disappointed. Like, I really thought I had 11. Well, then you should have thought about that when you half-assed your training for half the year. And that is but what people can't let go of is their initial expectation or goal that they had the minute they registered for a race. But then you forget like all the work that has to go into achieving that, or the fact that you could probably blow that expectation out of the water if you really just got after it right now. It's like they're putting a number and a goal, for so many people on a race that's result based, and our outcome based, not process oriented. It's like, work your way backwards. Like, work your way like, okay, well, I want to be 80% compliant for my training for, 8 to 10 to 12 weeks. Then I can start talking about seeing some improvement here and there. I just don't know why I'm not seeing improvement week to week. And you're like, well, you skip half your sessions. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, that's on you, right? That's not on the coach. Sorry. It's on you. Like, you have to do the work to see the improvement. And then you don't even see the improvement overnight. You see it over months and like years. You see it over if you can sustain it. And it's not saying you have to be perfect and have, 100% compliant every single week, but you have to do it more than you don't. And that's just a really hard concept, I think, for athletes to wrap their brain around, is that fantasy land expectation of, I think I want to qualify for Worlds. I think I want to hit the podium. Let's do it. You're like, hey, well, do you know what that's going to take? Yeah, but I feel like we can, okay, you're losing me already. You're already looking for a shortcut. Listen, you can't reach for the sky and take the route towards the basement. And that is what so many people do. I'm like, you're going the wrong way. If you want to reach for the sky, or you want to reach these like, huge, unbelievable goals that you think are never, were achievable, then don't start out by going the wrong freaking direction. Like, by looking for a shortcut or looking to buy things. I'm like, no, saddle up, get ready to roll, work on your time management, and be willing to put all the quiet work in that's going to get you to the very end to make whatever loud noises you want to make on race day. Don't start going the opposite direction. But that is like what most athletes do when they make these, brash and super confident, not outrageous, but like I'm gonna qualify for Kona. I think I'm gonna do this. And nobody's saying you can't. But then when your next step is the opposite direction, how do you think that's going to go? And then they wonder why they're not progressing. But honestly, it's just a frank, hard look in the mirror that every athlete has to do. I think multiple times a year is be like, am I on course or am I not on course? What I really want to achieve. And if I'm not on course, then what's really the problem? Is it the type of training, or is it the fact of doing the training that's getting in the way? And if it's doing the training that's getting in the way, then, what do I need to do better at it? How can I make more time? And if I can't have more time, then what do I need to do to make more time? Or do I need to just like maybe look at things differently and then just see where you end up? Because your goal of qualifying for whatever it is, or being whatever time it is, like, don't put an expiration in it, because then you immediately feel rushed. You immediately feel like behind the 8 ball. Just see what happens. You don't have to do it. Again, like going back to like, our desire and obsession with having things right now is just see where it happens, see when it happens down the road, and be okay with like the fact that life has an agenda that you are unaware of. It's just going to happen, and just do your best and see where you end up, because as long as you get there, as long as you get to your destination, honestly, who cares when you get there? As long as you get there. And I think that's just something that athletes try to rush through day in and day out, year in and year out.
I wonder how many athletes throughout the pandemic were just kind of going about their business, doing their thing, and they just kept going and getting better and not really paying much attention to it, just enjoying the process more. And then just sort of kind of are walking into these races and doing things they never dreamed of and being happier with that. And, podium type stuff that just comes out of nowhere because they weren't forcing it. I talked to, speaking of getting better, I was, I've been riding a lot more, and I realized this weekend, it's been kind of dawning on me. It's like, I called a friend of mine who's like a 5-hour Ironman biker type guy. And I just said, hey man, what do you think the 2 most important things are? He's my age too, which matters. And he was basically said the things he works, first of all, he said he bikes usually 4 days a week. And secondly, he said, I work on getting my heart rate to recover faster. I really train that all the time. And then he said the third thing he really focuses on is he really tries hard to stay out of upper zone 3. And he works like a lot on his bike. You know what I mean? Like I've had some decent bikes, and I felt like I could probably do, a little bit better and stuff like that. But like it takes a lot of work to get to the 5-hour mark, on an Ironman bike, for an age group in your 50s. And be able to run. Yeah. And to be able to run. Yeah, afterwards. Exactly. So, cause that was the thing that, he was talking about. He's like, when I get to that point, and I'm legit paying attention to my race power, it feels easy. To there's cruise at whatever that is, 22 miles an hour or something like that. But those are the things that I think don't sink in, certainly with me sometimes. And but I understand them. It makes sense. But it's so hard to wrap your head around that 15, 16 weeks out, because you want to be there now. That's the other thing, right? It's like they want you want the race numbers now. You want that race fitness now, and we don't have patience to stick with it and understand that, that's 3 or 4 months from now or whatever. And, shit's going to be different then. But don't try to make it happen now. I mean, that was the one thing I loved doing what he was talking about. He's like, I know my heart rate was out of shape early in the season. So I was really like, I had to pull back so much because I wanted to push what I thought was my heart rate, when I was in good shape, or the power numbers. I'm sure a lot of people do that, right? They just stick with their FTP from 2 years ago, that race that they just crushed it, and they're still trying to hit those numbers instead of backing down and let your body kind of regroom into it.
As the years progress, like humans in general, we have become so out of whack with our buy to work ratio, because everything that you have, everything that you want right now, you can almost have it in like 24 hours.
Yeah.
like anything, everything. You're like, dude, like you can get it like tomorrow. Like for so many things, you don't have to work for, I mean, you have to, do your job, but like the work to buy ratio we've all become accustomed to, I think has just made your brain toxic to the reality of what endurance sports is, which is it takes freaking time to get better. Not just years and years and years, but the consistency within those years and the weeks and the months to get better. And that's what also makes a sport not for everybody. Because a lot of people look for quick fixes or want something that, looks good and sounds good. And you're like, oh, but does it taste good? And the taste good part is the work. You're like, I'd rather have something that, I'd rather go to I want the gas station burrito level of training. I want the fact that it looks like a burrito and it may on like minute, 2.5 smell like a burrito, but it ain't going to taste like a burrito. And that's what most people
burrito.
I'm maybe frozen inside still. It's the Encino Man. For those of you old enough to know what the movie Encino Man was, probably sure. Brendan Fraser. But that's what most people like. That's how people have gotten. And guess what people are? People are triathletes. Triathletes are people. Like we have this really out of whack ratio between the time that it takes to get better. And I think that's just, I think we can close it there as like, but to me, it's like, that's the point, is that this takes a while to get better. And to put a ceiling on yourself or to know, like we talked about this at Tech Camp, the question was like, that's like, if you already knew exactly what you could do, right, on race day, then why train? Then why discover? Then why be a part of a process? If you already knew, or if you already know the exact time that you're capable of, then where's the fun in it? Where's the fun in the human exploration of like what your body, your mind, your willpower, your intelligence, your motivation, all these things, then what's the point? Right? But the point is to explore and to figure out and to see and to overcome. Like, don't give me that predictive bullshit. Like, I don't want to know. Because if I do, then I'm going to become lazy, right? Because then I'm like, I'm just that. You don't have any idea. And that, I think, is the fun of it. You don't know when you're going to end up. You don't know when you're going to, and then especially as you get older, you don't know when. There is no magic age to where they're like, oh, well, now it's not about getting faster. Now it's about slowing down the least. F that. I don't prescribe to that. Like, you just don't ever know, especially because it's also very dependent on how late you got in the game. Now, if you got in the sport at 18 and you get really, really, really fast, then, probably in your late 40s, 50s, it's not about getting faster. It's about, slowing, the aging process of your times down a little bit. But for the rest of us, like, I still have no idea what I'm capable of on the race course. And I find that awesome because I still want to figure out what I'm capable of. I still believe that I can do, a certain times in a full and a half. Like, I still believe I have that in me. And that's what makes this so fun, is the not knowing part. But we've become so obsessed with having to know everything because it brings us comfort. That doesn't bring me comfort. That makes me uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to know what I'm capable of because then I think I'll just get lazy. Like, I like having this certain level of, and it's not uncomfortable or uncertainty. It's just like, it's just wanting, that desire, like, I just want to figure it out, to be inquisitive, to be, to be a part of that you, a part of process that's really never ending, right? Mm-hmm. And that you can do that. And not many things in life allow us that opportunity anymore. Like, you can't sign up for a race and then, like, you registered for Ironman Chattanooga, move on to your cart and pick your race time. Excuse me? But that's what people think. It's like, I don't want that. No, I want, I'll choose option D, which is see what I have on race day and see what I can do and then move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. I don't want to pick, I don't want to pick out the cart and see, what I've got.
I really like that idea of open-endedness, right? It's like, what, we could sit here and go, I want to be able to run a 9:30 pace or something in the race. And then it's like, sometimes I do get that way. I'm like, why am I limiting myself? Or why? Then all of a sudden, because you get that in your head, and I think you subconsciously train to that or whatever, rather than just letting your body be free.
You're okay
and
with
go.
That.
Yeah, it's like that guy that won the 400 in the swim. Never hit that number all year, or of how many miles he swam in training, and then all of a sudden,
Hundreds.
One day, he blows it out of the water. It's like, wow, what a cool feeling that must be. Sort of like, but you must have to, like, as we train, you must know it in your gut that you're doing the right things, you know, and it's like it's an exciting venture because you really don't know. You feel like you did the work, you feel like you're solid, and you're going into this race feeling strong, and who knows what could happen out there.
It's about feeling like the possibilities are increasing, not the certainties are concreting. That to me is what makes the sport so awesome, is that you can, like you said, you can feel yourself feeling like, I think I'm going to have a good opportunity, not I feel like this is a certainty. Like those are two totally different methods of thinking psychologically. That I feel like the possibilities are increasing. I think I'm getting closer, because that allows you to still be engaged and still be kind of have that like healthy fear and or desire and extra kick in the pants if you need on some days, versus like, I feel like this is a certainty. I've got this. I don't want to ever feel like that, because then you're done. Then you start regressing. You don't want to ever feel like I've got this, unless you're like, at mile 11 or 25 on the run, and then you can feel like I've got this, and then you kind of have that pain smile. You're like, this feels so bad, but I'm doing so well. And we hope we did so well today on podcast 486. 486.
Possibility training. I like
that. Possibility training. If you want to know more about all the possibilities that we provide, you can head over to our website. It is c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. You can learn more about our club program that's still going on under the coaches tab. You can learn more about all the coaches that we have on staff, a lot of awesome people. You can learn more about hub visits, swim analysis, which are, I have 4 this week. So to say people are getting pumped up about getting better in the swim is awesome. If you want more info on our camps or our hub visits or coming to the condo or anything else like that, you can email c26operations@gmail.com. If you want to figure out just more about what we do, what we're about, what our team is like, you can follow us on Instagram, c26_triathlon. And then if you have any comments, questions, or anything else for Mike, you can email him directly, crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you need anything from me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah, dude. See you on
See you tomorrow.
All right, see you, dude.
All right.